Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
Congratulations, class of 2026, on the new degrees in your hands. It's not a finish line, it's a boarding pass. From here, you step into a new future where the map is being redrawn in real time. The megacity dream is fading, and a growing number of you are graduating with patents, not theses. So, where are the 2026 class heading? What jobs are emerging from the noise, and what does your choice say about the new definition of success? Coming to you live from our studios in Beijing, this is Roundtable. I'm Fei Fei, and for today's program, I'm joined by Steve, Heatherly, and Yushan. First on today's show. Every year, millions of graduates step into the job market with very similar questions. Where to go? What is my future? And who am I? But for 2026, China saw about 13 million new graduates entering the job market from Chinese universities. That was up 480,000 from the year 2025. And today we look at the numbers and see the bigger pictures that feels a bit different from a few years ago. Cities are shifting, industries are rebalancing, and even the so-called safe majors are being redefined. So what does the full map of graduate employment look like this year? What are the new jobs emerging? And what can help students find a job easier? Hello, Steve and Yushan. Before we get into the details of the 2026 data and report on graduate employment, I want to check with you guys. When you were looking for jobs, what are the defining factors? And do you have a ranking for these factors?
Well, number one is totally the salary. Like how much I can expect to earn from this job. And then for me, the second factor would be how far away it is from where I live. Like, will it be a pain for me to go to work and get off work every day? These two will have to be the top, at least for me. What about you, Steve?
After I graduated from university, I got a job at a beer company. And it was not in the field that I studied, but I decided to take the job for obvious reasons.
What is the reason?
Beer.
So
it's like a kid in a candy store. It was amazing. I worked there for a couple of years, but the factors that made me decide to take it honestly, I'm joking, of course. Geographical convenience, right? It wasn't particularly far away. But also a field or an industry that I was kind of unfamiliar with. I had a job ever since the 10th grade of high school. And I had done up until that point many different things, but I had never done that type of job before. So I was very curious about it, and I was happy to take it. You know, in Canada, coming out of university with an English degree, it's not specialized in any particular thing. So I was just kind of happy to get my feet wet, to be honest with you. I wasn't overly picky. I was offered a job that I was curious about. And for me, that was good enough at the time.
And so I think I have like similar issues graduating the same major from English literature, that when the moment of graduating, getting that degree, really being pushed into the society, the first reaction would be a little lost. Like, for this kind of major, what does that mean for the job choices that I have? So for me, the biggest factor would be location. Not about how far that I commute, but also about what kind of life do I want to build on. For instance, I'm not going back to my hometown in Mongolia. Then
you had decided that?
Yes, that's my number one answer. But what cities would I choose to live for at least the next several years? Is it Beijing? Is it somewhere else? Then another, more factors come into play. For instance, what about the climate? What about the salaries? What about the future of these certain careers? What kind of companies, big or small, so on and so forth. So when it comes to this kind of decisions, I think still in these days that can resonate with a lot of young graduates coming freshly out of college. When it comes to, what is the biggest factor that is deciding the kind of job that offer that I want to accept.
Indeed. Previously, or at least traditionally, we know that a lot of Chinese young people, especially if they freshly graduates, they kind of want to move to megacity, and it's been a trend for decades. If I'm remembering correctly, it means going to like landing into big cities, mega cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, Beishang, Guangshen, the good old four, we call it the first tier cities, as in they are our country's most developed and globally connected urban centers with the biggest opportunities, strongest concentration of top companies, etc. So nowadays we see the pattern is kind of shifting because, well, still young people are making decisions of where to choose to live and work, but they're rooting themselves in smaller cities, as in not only smaller in scale, that is one factor, but also in the fact that they are indeed local clusters with very strong and specialized job ecosystems featuring a particular refined industry. For example, in Suzhou, if I mention Suzhou, which locates in eastern China's Jiangsu province, the first thing as a northerner, I'll think about, charming canals, stone bridges, the traditional houses and Chinese-style gardens. That's so beautiful for tourism. But they also, Suzhou, the city, it also has become a major hub for electronic information. That I didn't know. And also for equipment manufacturing, for biomedicine and advanced materials. That's also strengthening Suzhou's role as a regional science and technology innovation hub. So, for example, if I'm graduating from science and technology related majors, then instead of going to beat my heads up and really try to squeeze into one of those top companies in Beijing, Shanghai, Suzhou nowadays can be a very good option for me.
Yeah, well, it can be the best option for you depending on your situation. Suzhou's a good example. Foshan's a good example. They specialize in home appliances and different manufacturing industries that feed directly into the industrial export system here in the country. Chengdu, for example, in the southwestern part of the country, they have a large tech and aerospace cluster that attracts talent. It also attracts investment as well. So it's not like, I think there's a comparison here to maybe American or British or Canadian culture or other countries too, where, in America, the dream after university might be to go to New York or go to LA or go to Chicago or one of the big cities for your big break. And that's probably still true for a lot of people. Canada might be Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal, something like that, or London in England. And it would be, like you said, it might have been Beijing, it might have been Shanghai, it might have been Shenzhen, but now the map is changing a little bit, and it's not because the students are settling. It's not like they're saying, oh, well, I can't get anything in Beijing. I can't get an opportunity in Shanghai, so I'm going to settle for Suzhou. I'm going to settle for Chengdu. No, that's not the case at all. Those cities are developing in a way that make them attractive to draw those new potential employees to their cities.
Yeah,
Indeed.
and we have a report actually called the 2026 Chinese University Student Employment Report, published by Michael's Institute, that looks like the bigger pictures, that they highlight the proportion of undergraduates employed in these smaller or even county or town level cities have risen significantly from 58% in 2021 to more than 60% in last year, 2025. And this year, the momentum is just keep going. So speaking of about different clusters of industries, I think, for instance, in Suzhou, for example, when it comes to a lot of the industries that are developing in that particular city, it also enjoys the spillover effect from bigger cities like Shanghai, and that can translate into the whole region in Zhejiang, Jiangsu, and so on and so forth. And so that also translates into the degrees or the majors, in precise, that these university students are getting. I mean, when it comes to every year, when around this time, when students are graduating, we look at different majors, which ones are more popular, which ones are sort of losing their attractions on the job market. What about for this year in particular? What are the golden tickets for the year 2026?
Well, so far across the board, the job market is tilting strongly towards engineering and industrial fields. So also mentioning to the report you brought up earlier, Fei Fei, this report also highlight that, the green card majors, which means...
That's nothing related to immigration, by the way.
No, not at all. It means a label that's mainly used in China to describe majors with strong employment rates, high job satisfaction, and growing industry demand, meaning that, these are very prosperous majors among all others. For instance, the electrical engineering graduates, they earn an average monthly salary of over 7,000 yuan, that's roughly 990 US dollars, with an 87% of professionals, the relevance rate, and also the job satisfaction. So meaning that students from this major, they tend to earn a relatively stable salary and also have a higher job satisfaction in general. And also in the latest trend, something very striking happened is that basically the so-called green card major is engineering based. That's kind of astonishing, but yet not too surprising at the same time. So that would include automation, microelectronics, and new energy science and engineering. So these majors are anchored in high-growth industrial chains such as integrated circuits and smart manufacturing and new energy vehicles, which are all pillar industries that this country is really trying to push forward these days. So we can see the students and also the job market in general are breaking the facades of, better opportunities are all in bigger cities, and breaking the facades of you can only get into good job opportunities unless you have a master degree or a PhD degree, but that everybody's just tuning down a little bit and getting more practical.
Yeah, so when it comes to the skills, for instance, the electronic engineering graduates, they can work in fields like power energy, transport, aerospace, digital technology. And I think why they are so popular on the job market is about the skills this kind of majors normally promise. And when it comes to skills, even for older majors, like for tourism, for economy, I think a lot of companies are now adding new skill sets for this kind of older majors, especially tilting towards artificial intelligence.
Yeah, the labor market, it's about incorporation or incorporating hard skills with what you've learned in the classroom for your major. We talked about it on yesterday's show, and today could be considered a part 2 of sorts for the fresh graduates about their future. Yesterday we talked about AI plus tourism in the sense that, tourism before and versus now would look a little bit different. You would have AI avatars that could guide you through a museum, something like that. That's just one example. Having the skills, knowing how to use AI and how it's incorporated into your major, that's what companies are looking for these days.
Yeah, but that also makes it challenging for some other majors. For instance, computer sciences or in coding, for instance, because with AI tools, a lot of these kind of coding tasks can be done by AI, not you need to hire somebody specifically for this kind of tasks.
But it's not like we are not learning about coding anymore, where coding is not important anymore. It's only that the way people view these skills, such as coding, it has become less about syntax mastery and more on how it can be better used to guide and prompt and shape AI-generated solutions, in the sense that it's still important. It's just not niche or not at a competitive advantage.
Are you talking about vibe coding?
It's a really new term in recent years, isn't it?
I had to look it up. I was like, what is that? What does that mean, vibe coding? That's where you write what you want the AI to do, so the AI writes the code for you. And so the reason they call it vibe coding is because it's kind of like you're vibing with AI. It's more of a back and forth collaboration where you're chatting with the AI and you give it feedback, and it essentially is you and the AI working together, with the AI writing the code and you just explaining what you want that code to be. That's vibe coding. That's becoming like a big thing these days.
And there are other majors that are sort of having this fading popularity. For instance, marketing, for instance, public service management, logistics management. It's not that they are losing popularity because they sort of lack this connection with the real world. But I think it can be something with for example, AI factor we just talked about. With the industrial transformation, a lot of industries are going through. So the old major design needs a little bit of shake up to do. So I want to check with you guys about the changes that in terms of these majors sort of implying to us. What does changes in industries or even in China's economies in general tells us? And more importantly, what does it translate into new jobs that young people can have a chance in?
Well, in terms of where this is heading, I think, first of all, as we mentioned, how coding is no longer the priority, but as part of the preparation for a bigger industry. Well, this is kind of the norm in a lot of the industries that's highly promoted in China nowadays, which is like basic skills, including IT, including management. These skills, they are slowly being phased out as we get to a more higher and faster development phase, featuring high tech and all that kind of technology and equipment and wisdom, and also in terms of cultivating young talents, one of the clearest signals comes from the robotics and intelligent manufacturing sector. Because in today's China's growing robotics industry, the entire new job roles are emerging, as a matter of fact, on the factory floor. For example, in robot production facilities right in Chongqing, the workers there are no longer just assembling machines. One new role is, they call it 机器人成品测试员, as in robot final product tester. Their job is to test robots. So these workers, they monitor multiple robots at once and use computers to manage their movement routes and system performance. And this role is responsible for making sure that multiple machines can operate smoothly together in the same pace without traffic jams among each other, while also, testing whether the robots function properly or not. So it's not about, well, previously we kind of had these discussions many times as well, like how robots, AI, they're replacing human. But then, robots products are still being regulated, being checked by humans. And these are among the new jobs nowadays.
Not only that, would you like to be a human-machine coordination planner?
That sounds cool.
What you would be doing each day is focusing on managing the collaboration between human workers and AI or robotic systems to make joint operations smoother, safer, and more efficient. That's the job description. It's basically like a team manager for a mixed human AI robot team.
And also there is a new job called robot data analysts, because when it comes to the training of these robots, I think they are all sort of linked within the robotics industry, but from different angles. They need to collect a lot of data and then analyze those data, so that can be used to train individual robots. But when it comes to we have different robots in the same room, maybe we need planners, coordination planners among robots and even among humans and machines. And another very interesting new job titles, I think in 2025, China actually announced new occupations, 17 of them, and also more than 40 new job types. The highest number recorded so far. And that includes something very interesting as well. For example, when it comes to drone flight manager. That's something that can be seen actually also in the city of Chongqing.
Yeah.
We talked about the growth of the low altitude economy. This will be related to that.
Yeah, and one case reported by the CCTV earlier this year is very interesting. So it reports about one guy named Song Yuan Mao, who is not really too aged. He's relatively young, as a matter of fact, under 40 years old. He is one of these drone fleet flight planners based in Chongqing. So what he does is not to fly drones, but to design their safe routes in advance before any like particular light show events happens. So he literally draws flight paths for drone fleets and decide where they fly, how high they fly, how fast they fly, and how they can map together into different patterns, and also how they respond to emergencies. For example, one drone suddenly stops lighting, and how the other drones can help.
The emergency plan in this kind of drone show. I think they manage thousands of drones at once. They have a whole fleet, a whole team that they need to manage. That's really, really cool.
I saw a couple of other new jobs that I thought were quite interesting and not really related to AI, robot, futuristic stuff. Sleep health manager is on the list.
Yeah, that's really cute too, because, well, this job title is sort of, it combines the almost like a doctor to patient kind of treatment with community-based knowledge promotion on how can people get a better sleep. So one case would be Xu Lijun, who is a community psychological therapist in Beijing, who now works, of course, as a frontline sleep health manager. It's a brand new job title, recognized profession. It's focused on helping people tackle sleep problems before they become serious. So rather than treating insomnia as an isolated issue, people like Xu, they look at the bigger picture by, doing regular check-ins with their patients. And she also discussed sleep alongside stress levels, how you can better manage your own stress in terms of getting better sleep. And in some particular cases, she also create personal plans for some of her customers with chronic insomnia from constant worries and nighttime vigilance. So it's like one-on-one for part of the service, but it can also get to like community workshop, teaching local people about emotional regulation and how that can really work back on enhancing your sleep quality.
And another point that I want to add is that a lot of these new jobs that we talked about are really science and technology oriented. It's either engineering or some kind of requiring you to have knowledge about engineering. But when it comes to humanities and social sciences, it's not like they're squeezed out of the job market, they have no future. But for instance, in a lot of AI companies these days, they're starting to hire positions, for example, called AI ethics advisor, AI narrative designer, or humanities trainer that are being recruited to train when it comes to a lot of ethics questions that we discussed on the show before for AI models.
Wow, what kind of people would qualify to be, qualified for such roles?
Most of the time, this kind of a job posting would require students or graduates or people to have a philosophy background. So if you study philosophy, it's not
if you study philosophy, finally!
Yeah, it's the day for us. It's
you
my
get to
prime
use
time.
it.
I get to work in science.
Yeah, very surprising.
Not what you set out to do. Yeah, and that's great news. But if we're looking at industry growth very honestly over the next 10 years, I was on the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics website. And this is the 2024 to 2034 fastest growing occupations list. Okay, so these are the projections for the next 10 years.
Spell the T.
Number 5. Yeah, let's make a little game out of this. Number 5 on the list, information security analyst, projected 29% growth. So in that job, the parent company networks and with data from cyber attacks and breaches and protects against that type of stuff. Very scientific, very technical, right? Number 4 on the list, data scientist, 34% growth, analyzing large data sets. Number 3, nurse. Nice.
Oh, nice.
Number 2, solar photovoltaic installer, 42%. That's very kind of in the description of the title, install and maintain solar panel systems. Number 1, 50% growth projection over the next 8 years. Wind turbine service technician.
Ooh, they are still very engineering focused.
So number 1 and number 2 on the list, green energy, right? Number 3, nurse, awesome. Number 4, data scientists, tech side of things, and number 5, information security analyst, tech side of things. So yes, the humanities are still being protected. It's not like we should ignore them, but at the same time, if we're honest, it seems like things are going in a very tech sort of way.
Yeah, because the whole society, the whole economy, not only here in China, globally, they are going through this digital transformation thanks to technologies like AI and even more than that. And that means basically the whole social structures will see major changes. But I do want to check in with another point that Yushan mentioned in the beginning of the show. When it comes to job hunting, her top priority is payment, is salary, isn't it? And I think for a lot of young graduates, that's also, these kind of jobs are very promising, managing or planning people's sleep health or coordinating drone fleets in Chongqing. But what about the financial side of these jobs? What are the bigger pictures when it comes to, the differences in payments and salaries?
Yeah, on income, the data still shows a rather clear and familiar pattern here. So higher education generally leads to higher pay. And the average monthly income for undergraduates stands at around 6,400 yuan. That's about nearly $900 per month, while vocational college graduates earn about 4,800 yuan. That's roughly nearly $700 per month. So in purely financial terms, the degree premium still exists, and education continues to translate into measurable earnings and advantages. And I'm really down to earth on these terms. Nobody works in expectation for doing charity, right? Like payment at the end of the day is your biggest drive. But when we shift from income to satisfaction, the picture becomes kind of interesting because vocational college graduates now report a slightly higher job satisfaction rate at 84%. And that's comparing to 81% for undergraduates. So here we're looking at a mismatch of
a reversal even in perception.
Sort of like that.
Then why are we seeing this kind of, for vocational college graduates, they didn't make as much money as undergraduates, but they're some seems like happier with their jobs.
This is not surprising to me at all.
Oh, really?
No, because I think a lot of the time vocational college graduates studied what they were interested in. They had hands-on experience, and then they got a job related to that. So you're working with what you learned about. I mentioned that my first job out of university was at a beer company. I thought that's going to be amazing. Turned out I didn't like that. And I think one of the reasons I didn't like it is because nothing I learned in that company, which was a lot, was related to anything that I had learned in the last 4 years of study. And I think that led to my lower job satisfaction. So it's still high for undergraduates, 81%. That's pretty good, I guess. But 84% for vocational college graduates in terms of job satisfaction rate, I would attribute that to the connection between what they actually learned and what they're actually working on.
And in terms of the Chinese job market, it's been like this. I'm sure it's going to change very drastically in the near future, but it's been like this traditionally, that young people who fail to secure undergraduate diploma will consider joining vocational education as a secondary option. And it's been like this since my school years. It's been like this for a few years back. But nowadays, we see that that's changing because vocational skills, like you said, Steve, it's a stable skill, and you are expected to be in certain positions because of the very refined skill that you learn. So the expectation at the very beginning is simple. But then when you're thrown into the job market and actually start earning money and realize just how many other things you can do to earn money, you start to, build bigger expectations, and that's actually satisfied in return. But when we look at university grads, on the other hand, they, of course, well, instead of they, I should refer to we were more likely to invest more time and money in the diploma itself, and also in the higher expectancy on how we can be repaid after we get a job. And that can vary very largely depending on which industry you're in and what kind of job you're in and where you are.
And your expectations will play a major role in your job satisfaction too, because this was an issue. I'm not sure if this is an issue in China or not, but this was an issue in the West many years ago. People would go to graduate school. They would invest a lot of their time and their money and their energy in getting a master's degree. And when they would come out of graduate school, they would leave with a sense of not entitlement, but at least the feeling that they deserved a decent starting salary or a good job title.
Yeah.
And when they didn't get the salary that they expected, or they didn't get the job title that they expected, they felt almost insulted, I might think.
At least disappointed.
At the very least disappointed, and at the very most insulted, perhaps. Because, and I understand that feeling, you think, I've invested all of this time, all of this money, and I have to start from the very, very, very bottom. That was an issue in the West for a while, and perhaps, I think, probably still is.
Yeah, and also here in China as well, especially when it comes to these undergraduate and postgraduates and even doctors, that they have this perception about if I graduate with a degree, with a fancy degree, for instance, most of the time that means a job in a very fancy office building. And that means better life, higher payments, and my future is just so certain, glamorous, and nothing can beat that expectation. But when they first enter their first job, the entry-level job, that's mostly about very dull tasks, like managing very mimic, assisting other people, and you don't have a bigger sense of accomplishment in the end of the day. Well, compared to vocational students, I think that can be translated into lower expectations. Then they don't feel this mismatch between what I'm doing currently with the future that I was painted a few years ago. And now I think there are a lot of help to deal with this mismatch between what we learned on campus and what the job market really needs. Not only about building channels. For instance, Chinese authorities hold a lot of campus recruitment events offering many, many job opportunities. But by the end of the day, it's about what skills you have that you can offer to the job market. And that's why I think very interestingly this year, we're seeing some very innovative creative ideas, measures for undergraduates and how they get their degrees. It's not only about handing in papers and theses anymore, isn't it?
I think that's one of the facts that I love the most about modern day educational designs, which is, like you mentioned, many majors now no longer requires a thesis at the end of the school year, at your senior year, as a signature for your graduation, but really deliver something very practical, a project. It could be a fertilizer design, it could be an art piece, it could be anything that's very closely major related.
At Nanjing University, there was the story of an engineering PhD student who was awarded a degree after contributing to a major national water infrastructure project, or projects actually, including the south to north water diversion project, and that's one of the biggest water engineering systems in the world. That particular student was just given a degree because of the contributions to those projects. So, the country is moving in that direction where practical skills-based graduation standards where students can, replace the thesis or a paper with a real-world outcome, like projects like that, or patents, or other products
and
that
even
are
novels.
Sure, yeah, why not, right? And I love this idea because it's proof. It's proof that you don't need to write. If you've contributed to the South to North Water Diversion Project, one of the biggest projects in the world, I think that's proof you deserve a degree.
Yeah, you don't need to spend half a year at least drafting and writing about dozens of pages long of thesis. That doesn't necessarily mean a solution in the real world.
Show me. Don't just write about it. Show me.
And also leaving the real job opportunities for those talents who can actually solve problems instead of writing beautiful lines.
Yeah, so for this year, 2026, the graduate job market is a little bit different, but I think it's more diverse, more technical, more connected to the real world that we are building right now. So good luck to the class of 2026 that are graduating.